Tonight, would you take abortion advice from a group that believes the procedure is wickedness? As the government plans to put counselling in the hands of independent advisers, this programme reveals the biggest counselling group, which claims no bias, uses a training manual that says abortion is a grievous sin.
The main thing that resonates with me is the fact that they said to me that God was giving me another chance.
Now the battle's before Parliament. We ask if it's ever possible to offer unbiased advice on such an emotive subject. Hello, good evening. If you find yourself pregnant and confused about an abortion, the chances are you'll be offered counselling. Up till now, the majority of services being offered were from the British Pregnancy Advisory Service or Mary Stopes, organisations that carry out abortions themselves. Is that fair? The government has decided not. It says it will change the rules so that the clinics that offer termination services are not tasked with advising. But who will fill the gap? And can abortion advice ever be impartial? Anna Adams has discovered that the main umbrella group claiming to offer independent advice, Care Confidential, is using a training manual which claims abortion is wickedness.
It's one of the most difficult decisions a woman will ever have to make, and who helps her make that decision is about to be put in the hands of politicians. A cross-party alliance backed by the government wants to see abortion providers stripped of their powers to advise pregnant women, and instead they want to choose the organisations that they think are more independent.
So I think the government are in danger of opening up a very unethical practice, and practice that's against the best interests of women here, and vulnerable women at that.
The important thing in a way is to take it away from abortion providers so that the counselling can be truly independent.
Well, at the moment, if a woman wants an abortion, first of all, it has to be signed off by 2 doctors. She can then be offered counselling if they think she needs additional help. But the new proposals being mooted by the Department of Health would like to see all women offered free, independent counselling before they can have a termination. But it's the question of who can provide independent counselling that's proving to be so hugely controversial. One of the groups that's supposed to offer this kind of non-biased counselling is Care Confidential. It's the biggest independently funded crisis pregnancy charity in the UK. They've got more than 130 affiliated centres. They say they don't moralise, but we've had access to their training manuals, which describe abortion as a grievous sin.
Abortion is undoubtedly a wickedness that grieves God's heart. As we study the Bible, we see that life begins within the womb when the human egg is fertilized and then implanted. The deliberate destruction of the developing child at any stage from this point is to deny the life of the human being, a most grievous sin in the eyes of God. Because abortion involves the taking of a human life, a life God created, it is very much a spiritual issue. It is important, therefore, that this work of post-abortion counselling is church-based.
We spoke to one woman who said her Care Confidential counselling session was more like a sermon.
Bringing God into the counselling space, I think, is highly inappropriate. It's non-directive counselling. I've had non-directive counselling for pregnancy-related issues before, and I know what it's like. It respects the client. You don't bring religion into the counselling space. And so the moment they mentioned God, I knew something wasn't quite right. I was told things like, it wasn't, I was actually a mother now, even though I was only 6 weeks pregnant. My baby, they didn't refer to the pregnancy as a pregnancy, it was a baby, even at just 6 weeks. Had everything, like DNA, absolutely everything, the whole blueprint, and I was a mother now. And eventually this kind of expanded to the fact that abortion just was not a solution. It was not the answer, and just all sorts of very anti-abortion views were just being thrown at me, really.
Care Confidential say they acknowledge the language they used is now outdated and are going to rewrite the training manuals. The chief executive said they want to bring 100 centres up to a commissionable standard so that every advisor would consistently provide unbiased, confidential advice and support.
There already is an existing unbiased professional service which is regulated and inspected by the Department of Health itself, which on its website warns against going to these so-called independent abortion providers who have been shown time and time again through mystery shopping exercises to give distorted advice, incorrect advice, and try and shame women into not seeking abortion when that's in their interests and what they want.
Pro-life groups say change is needed because abortion providers like Mary Stopes and BPAS have a financial incentive to advise women to have a termination.
Well, at the moment, counselling appears to be just the first step on the abortion conveyor belt. Abortion providers give the impression that abortion is no big deal. But at Life, from the many, many women we see for post-abortion counselling, we know that abortion has serious consequences for many, many women. If they're going to clinics which are basically giving the impression this is no big deal, it's perhaps too easy to get into a process without having fully thought it through.
Well, attempts to change the abortion laws have failed in the past. The most recent example was trying to lower the limit from 24 to 22 weeks. But this time, it's slightly different because these changes can be made without a vote, which means the government is open to criticism that is trying to make radical changes without political scrutiny. Abortion charities say the changes would only delay thousands of terminations and put women at greater risk. But pro-life groups say it could actually prevent 60,000 terminations every year. With such polarised views, are any of these groups really qualified to be truly independent?
Anna Adams there. We put our report to the Department of Health and they said no minister was available as they're still finalising their proposals, but they did give us this statement. Our proposals, they write, are independent counselling being developed. We'll provide more detail and consult on this detail later in the year. Well, meanwhile, let's discuss it further here because joining me now is the Conservative MP Stuart Jackson, a backer of Nadine Dorries' amendment, and from Manchester, the Labour MP Yasmin Qureshi. Welcome. Thank you to you both. Stuart Jackson, do you believe that a group which believes that abortion is undoubtedly a wickedness that grieves God's heart can offer independent advice?
Well, I think there'll be a plethora of independent advisors and counsellors coming in to give advice and counselling on abortion if this amendment goes through.
What about that group, though? I mean, this is Care Confidential, currently the biggest independent advisor, who says that it's a wickedness that grieves God's heart.
Clearly there will be a range of views and there will be nuances, and as Care
International... That's not a nuance, that's not a range of views, that's a very...
As Care International themselves have said, they will be changing their manual and they will be presenting a different picture to women that seek their advice and counselling. But this is primarily about choice, it's about impartiality, and it's breaking that fiscal link, that conflict of interest between people, as we did in the pension industry 20 odd years ago, between people who give advice and also people then sell financial products.
So just to clarify, do you think those people are appropriate? This is a company that is offering a service that they call unbiased, and their training manuals, the manuals that their own advisors learn from, preach that it is undoubtedly a wickedness that grieves God's heart. Is that a suitable agency to go to?
Well, I think you will always be able to bring forward anecdotes. You will find anecdotes from people who've had advice.
It's not an anecdote. This is a report from a woman you heard in that piece who went and had that kind of...
You will have people that have gone to BPAS and Mary Stopes who say that they were given inappropriate advice. You will always have this straw man argument when you're challenging vested interest. £60 million a year they receive, these two organisations, to do abortions on the National Health Service, 100,000 abortions a year. And it seems it ill behoves people who say that they're in favour of women's choice to oppose an amendment which will actually open up choice and bring forward independence and transparency to the whole situation, which is a very traumatic situation for many women.
Yasmin Qureshi, it is unrealistic to expect that these places that offer the service of abortion will not be swayed by the business they are in, isn't it?
Well, there's no empirical evidence to that effect to show that this is the case in point. And I'm afraid I'm very concerned about these proposal changes because behind it is an agenda, and the agenda is a religiously, probably morally based agenda, which is to reduce the number of abortions. In all honesty, these people like Nadine Dorries and others are not really concerned about giving young women or women independent advice. What their agenda is to reduce the number of abortions because they think morally and religiously it's the wrong thing to happen.
But this is just surely a rebalancing of a system that is arguably already unfair, that, as one woman said, makes going to a clinic seem like it's no big deal when women are turning up for abortions.
Well, I think that's wrong as well, because when a woman falls pregnant who doesn't want to be pregnant, I am sure that she's probably getting a number of different advisors, family members, friends, her GP and others, and she probably knows more or less probably what she wants to do in majority of the cases. And to suggest that somehow you're going to reduce 100,000 down to 40,000, i.e. 60,000 people are not going to have abortions, is completely wrong. And that just shows to me that there is agenda behind these people.
Do you want to reduce the number of abortions? Do you think that's an important part of this change in the law?
What this is about is righting an anomaly, which is at the moment women do not have the right in law to seek independent counselling and advice.
But why is that writing it then?
Well,
I mean, you've seen what that agency said, and they are the largest independent, in quotes, provider of that counselling service now. Who else is there?
Well, the fact of the matter is this is not a narrow agenda. This is backed by a majority of the public, many people in the healthcare sector, the British Association of Counsellors and Psychotherapists, and right across the House of Commons, and that's and even as your own report said by the government.
Who else is there?
There will be many other people that will come in to give that support. And if you're asking me that as a legislator, as Yasmin is, it is not right that we consider a social phenomenon which has grown from 84,000 abortions in 1991 to 181,000 abortions in 2010, that we should have no part in deciding that, then I have to disagree with Yasmin.
The argument we should be having and the debate we should be having as a society is about the number of pregnancies which are unwanted. It's to prevent unwanted pregnancies, is to work out how to educate people better, how to even maybe talk about abstinence and things of that nature to prevent pregnancy. Once the pregnancy has taken place, in all honesty, most women probably know what they want to do. And we're concentrating completely on the wrong argument. We're going to set up another bunch of quangos and charities. More money is going to be given for these so-called independent advisors, when actually our energies should be into...
Where is the money coming from for this?
This will be revenue neutral.
Just let her finish.
Revenue neutral because the NHS already spends money.
Can I finish, right? The real issue for us as a society to address is actually about the fact that there are so many unwanted pregnancies. How do we prevent that from happening? There's no point trying to change the situation and putting it back 25 years ago. As you know, most medical practitioners have said that this particular proposal is actually going to cause more problem, it's going to cause more delays, and actually it's going to cause more dilemma and more harm to women.
Let's put those. And for the government now, which is preaching austerity, we haven't got the money for this. And you certainly don't want to push women's decisions even further along the line of their pregnancy, do you?
This is about putting women's choices that are right for them in very traumatic circumstances front and centre. The money is already being spent by the NHS.
And yet you're banning certain places from giving advice, like the BPAS and Mary Stopes that do at the moment. Why is that more choice?
We are challenging a vested interest, and I cannot understand why people who are supportive of women's choice, information, transparency and independence should be against this amendment. And the reason that people support it across the House of Commons, across the country, is because it's moderate and it's sensible, and it is not part of an agenda.
Do you have any evidence that they actually encourage abortions amongst women who would otherwise have chosen not to?
No, I'm not making the direct link. I'm just saying that there is certainly a case to answer that there is a vested interest in the provision of elective terminations, particularly by BPAS and Mary Stopes.
You can't say that there's a vested interest. I mean, you've got no evidence to prove that. You can't just make aspersions against people. That
wait a second, let her finish, please. Let her finish.
Okay.
There's a moral argument going on here, and that's what people should be honest about. This isn't about wanting to give women's choice. This is about the fact that increasing their social conservatism coming from America, coming into this country, and all they're trying to do is
you think this is a move of a government that is anti-abortion? Is that how it will be seen? Yasmin Qureshi?
Yes, I think that is the move, and I think that is the intention of a lot of people.
Why are BPAS advertising for a business development manager and lauding in their own report a 13% increase in abortion funding?
I'm so sorry, we've run out of time, but thank you both very much indeed. Thanks.